April 12th, 1945. Anna Weber could smell the stew before she saw the fence. Rich, warm, impossible. For 3 years, she had forgotten what meat smelled like. In Hamburg, the rations had shrunk to turnip soup and sawdust bread. In France, the field hospitals ran on burnt coffee and hope. Now standing in the back of an American truck on a dirt road in Mississippi, she smelled beef and onions drifting through the pine trees. It made no sense. This was a prisoner of war camp. This was enemy territory. This was supposed to be the end of everything she knew. But the wind carried the scent of stew, and Anna's hands began to shake. Beside her sat Margaret Fisher, Greta, 28 years old with hollow cheeks and eyes that had stopped crying months ago. Her husband Hans had gone missing on the Eastern Front in 1943. No body, no grave, just a letter from his commander saying he was lost near Kursk. Greta hadn't spoken much since they were captured in France. On Anna's other side sat Erika Schmidt, 21. Blonde hair pulled back tight, jaw set like stone. Erika had been a leader in the Bund Deutscher Mädel, the League of German Girls. She believed. Even now, even after surrender, even after the long voyage across the Atlantic, Erika believed in the cause. She sat with her arms crossed, staring straight ahead, refusing to acknowledge the smell of food. The truck slowed. Through the canvas covering, Anna could see tall wire fences, wooden watchtowers, American soldiers in clean uniforms standing at attention, a painted sign that read U.S. Army Internment Camp, POW Facility. The engine cut. Silence. Then a voice. Young. American. Surprisingly gentle. Line up, please. That word. Please. Anna had not heard that word from a soldier in 3 years. The women climbed down from the truck slowly, 50 of them, nurses, radio operators, clerks, auxiliaries, captured during the chaos of Germany's collapse in Western Europe. They had expected screams, bungs, beatings, everything the propaganda posters had promised them about American cruelty. Instead, they found order. Soldiers stood with rifles slung loose over their shoulders, not pointed, not raised, just carried. A sergeant with kind eyes motioned them into a line. He looked barely older than Anna herself. She stepped forward. Her legs felt weak. The journey had been long. 12 days on a cargo ship across the Atlantic. Cramped, cold, sick. The waves had thrown them against the steel walls until bruises covered their arms. They had whispered in the dark about what waited for them in America. Labor camps, some said. Execution, others whispered. Shame, Erika had said with certainty. They will parade us through their streets to humiliate us. But there were no crowds here, no cameras, just pine trees and red dirt and the distant clang of metal trays from somewhere beyond the fence. One by one, the women were processed. A medic checked their eyes, their hands, their temperatures. Another soldier wrote their names in a ledger with careful handwriting. They were each given a number. Anna became prisoner of war 314. Greta became 315. Erika became 316. Then they were handed items. A bar of soap, white, smooth. It smelled like flowers. A clean towel, a wool blanket folded. Anna held the soap up to her nose. She had forgotten this smell. In Germany, soap had become gray and harsh, made from whatever the factories could scrape together. This soap smelled like spring, like a world before the war. Greta took hers without speaking. She pressed it against her chest like something precious. Erika refused. The soldier offering it to her looked confused. He was young, maybe 19, freckles across his nose. He held the soap out again, nodding encouragingly. Erika shook her head, crossed her arms tighter. The soldier glanced at the interpreter, an older man in round glasses who spoke German with a strange American accent. She says she will not accept charity from the enemy, the interpreter explained. The soldier looked at Erika for a long moment. Then he spoke. His voice was calm. This isn't charity, ma'am. This is the Geneva Convention. You're a prisoner of war and you have rights. Take it. The interpreter translated. Erika's jaw trembled. For just a second, Anna saw something crack in her friend's face. Fear, confusion, doubt. Then Erika reached out, took the soap, held it stiffly in her hand like it might burn her. They were led to a long wooden barracks. Inside, rows of cots stood neatly arranged. Each had a thin mattress, a pillow, the blanket they'd been given. The air smelled of fresh paint and disinfectant. It was clean. Anna had not slept in a clean room since before the war. She sat on the edge of her cot, the mattress compressed slightly under her weight. Actual padding. Not straw, not newspaper. Real padding. Greta sat beside her and put her face in her hands. Anna reached over, touched her shoulder. "Are you all right?" Greta shook her head without looking up. "My husband died in mud," she whispered. "He froze in a trench somewhere near Stalingrad, and I am sitting on a bed with a pillow." Her voice broke. "I do not deserve this." Anna had no answer. She looked around the barracks. Other women were sitting in similar silence. Some were crying quietly. Others stared at the walls. A few were holding the soap bars like they were artifacts from another life. Near the doorway, Erica stood rigid, watching, judging. Her face was pale. "This is a trick," she said loudly in German. "They want us to feel grateful. Then they will take it all away." No one replied. That night, Anna lay awake. The cot creaked softly when she shifted. Outside, she could hear crickets, the low murmur of American voices from the guard barracks. Someone was playing music, a harmonica. The tune was slow and sad. She recognized it. Lily Marlene, the song that both sides sang. German soldiers in the trenches. American G is in foxholes. The same melody, different words, same longing. Anna closed her eyes. She thought about her brother, Klaus. He had died at Stalingrad in 1943. 20 years old, he had sent her one letter from the front. It said, "I do not come home, tell mother I was not afraid." She never found out if that was true. Now she was in America, the land her brother had been told to hate, the people he had died fighting, and they had given her soap that smelled like flowers. Somewhere across the room, Erica was crying, trying to hide it, failing. Anna turned her face to the wall and let her own tears fall. Morning came with a whistle, not harsh, not angry, just a signal, 6 o'clock. The women rose slowly. No one had slept well. They assembled outside the barracks in a loose formation. The Mississippi sun was already warm. The air smelled like earth and pine sap. A sergeant walked past holding a clipboard. He nodded politely. "Good morning," he said in English. A few of the women whispered back, "Guten Morgen." Their voices barely rose above the breeze. They were led through the camp. It looked more like a small village than a prison. Neat rows of wooden huts, vegetable gardens with rows of tomatoes and beans, laundry lines strung between posts, even a small chapel with a white cross painted on the door. American soldiers worked alongside other prisoners, men in the same gray uniforms with black PW letters stenciled on the back. They were hammering fence posts, stacking crates, carrying buckets of water. No one was shouting. No one was being hit. Anna watched a German POW hand a hammer to an American soldier. The American said something. The German nodded. They both smiled. She felt dizzy. This was not what she had been taught. For 12 years, the radio had told her that Americans were cruel, that they hated Germans, that prisoners were worked to death in mines and factories. But here was a man smiling. They reached the mess hall, a large wooden building with a tin roof. The smell that had haunted Anna since yesterday grew stronger. Beef, potatoes, onions, butter. The door opened. Inside were long tables with benches. At the far end stood a row of serving counters. Behind them were large men in white aprons. Cooks. Steam rose from the pots in front of them. Anna's stomach twisted with hunger. "Step forward, ma'am," the sergeant said gently to the first woman in line. The woman hesitated, looked back at the others, then stepped forward. She was handed a metal tray, heavy, warm from the steam, a ladle dipped deep into a pot. And then, thick brown stew poured onto her plate, chunks of beef, carrots, potatoes, real vegetables, real meat. A slice of white bread was placed beside it, a spoonful of applesauce, a cup of coffee. The woman stared at it. "Is this for us?" she whispered in German. The translator nodded. "Yes, eat." One by one, the women moved through the line. Each received the same. Stew, bread, coffee. The smell filled the room. Warm, rich, comforting. Anna took her tray with shaking hands. She found a seat at one of the long tables. Greta sat beside her. Erica sat across from them, staring down at her plate like it was a test. Anna picked up her spoon. She scooped a small portion of stew, lifted it to her mouth. The taste hit her like a wave. Salt, pepper, beef fat, tender potato. It was warm all the way down. And she broke. Tears came without warning. She tried to stop them. Could not. She took another spoonful and the tears came faster. Around her, other women were crying too. Some were sobbing into their sleeves. Others were laughing nervously, not knowing how to handle the flood of feeling. Greta ate slowly, each bite deliberate. She chewed carefully as if afraid the food might disappear. Anna looked across the table. Erica had not touched her food. Her hands were clenched in her lap. Her jaw was tight. Her eyes were wet. A man approached, large, broad-shouldered, the head cook. His name tag said Henderson. He leaned down slightly and spoke. The interpreter translated. Not hungry. Erica shook her head stiffly. Henderson studied her for a moment. Then he reached over and placed an extra slice of bread on her tray. Eat, he said gently. You'll need your strength. The interpreter passed the words along. Erica stared at the bread. Her lip trembled. Then slowly she picked it up. She bit into it, and the tears she had been holding broke free. She covered her mouth with one hand and wept, deep shaking sobs that she tried to muffle. Anna reached across the table, squeezed her wrist. It is all right, Anna whispered. It is all right to feel this. Erica shook her head violently. No, she choked out. No, it is not. We are the enemy. They should hate us. They should punish us. Not this, not kindness. I do not know what to do with kindness. Her voice cracked on the last word. Across the room, a guard stood watching. Young, maybe 26. His name was Sergeant Frank Miller. He had been standing post since dawn. He watched the women cry over their stew, and he turned to the soldier beside him. They are crying over stew, he said quietly. The other soldier, a corporal from Ohio, nodded. Wouldn't you, Miller, thought about that? Thought about his brother, thought about Normandy, thought about the telegram his mother had received in June of 1944. Yeah, he said finally. I guess I would. After breakfast, the women were assigned to work details. It was explained through the interpreter that they would be given tasks. Gardening, laundry, sewing, kitchen assistance, light work. Nothing dangerous, nothing cruel. In return, they would receive meals, medical care, and small tokens they could use at the camp store for toiletries and writing paper. Anna was assigned to the medical tent. She had been a nurse before the war. The camp doctor, a woman named Helen Kowalski, greeted her in fluent German. You will work with me, Dr. Kowalski said. We need someone who understands both languages. Anna nodded. Greta was assigned to the sewing workshop. Her hands were skilled. She had made clothes before the war. Now she would repair uniforms and stitch blankets. Erica was assigned to the vegetable garden. She stood in the dirt with a hoe in her hands, staring at rows of tomato plants. Refusing to work, Sergeant Miller was assigned to supervise her group. He walked over, spoke through the interpreter. You need to work, he said. Everyone works here. Erica glared at him. I do not take orders from the enemy. Miller looked at her for a long moment. Then he crouched down, picked up a handful of soil, let it run through his fingers. My brother died in Normandy, he said quietly. June 6, 1944. Omaha Beach. He was 19 years old. The interpreter translated. Erica's face went pale. Miller stood, looked her in the eye. You think I want to be nice to you? You think I want to stand here and make sure you are treated well? I have orders, and my orders are to follow the Geneva Convention. So I will do that, not because I like you, but because it is the right thing to do. He turned and walked away. Erica stood in the dirt, alone, the hoe heavy in her hands. That night, the women gathered in the barracks. Some wrote letters home. They had been told they could send one letter each, one page, censored, but their own words. Anna wrote to her mother in Hamburg. Mother, I am alive. I am in America. They treat us fairly. I have food. I have shelter. Please tell me you are safe. Please tell me you survived the bombing. I think of you every day. Your daughter, Anna. She folded the letter carefully, kissed the envelope before handing it to the mail officer. Greta sat on her cot, staring at a blank page. Finally, she wrote, Hans, if you are still alive and this reaches, you know that I am in America. I am fed. I am warm. I am ashamed. I love you. I am sorry. Greta, she knew he would never read it, but she wrote it anyway. Erica refused to write. I will not beg for mercy from the enemy, she said. But late that night, after the lights were out, Anna saw her sitting by the window, writing by moonlight, the words small and cramped. Mother, I do not understand what is happening. They feed us. They give us soap. They speak to us with respect. Everything we were told was a lie. I am afraid. I am so afraid. Your daughter, Erica. She folded it, hid it under her pillow. In the morning she would burn it. But Anna had seen. Weeks passed. The rhythm of the camp became familiar. Wake at 6, work until noon, lunch, more work, dinner, free time, lights out at 10. It was a routine. And in that routine, the women began to breathe again. Anna worked in the medical tent. She learned English phrases: bandage, fever, rest. Dr. Kowalski was patient, kind. She told Anna about her family, about leaving Germany in 1938, about the life she had built in America. You could have that too, she said one afternoon. After the war, you could come back as an immigrant. Anna did not know what to say. Greta worked in the sewing room. Her stitches were small and perfect. The American quartermaster complimented her work, gave her extra thread in colors she liked. She made a small doll from scrap fabric, gave it to a guard's daughter who visited the camp one Sunday. The little girl hugged it and said thank you. Greta cried in the bathroom for 10 minutes. Erica worked in the garden. She did not speak to Miller, did not look at him, but she worked, slowly at first, then with focus. One day she found a tomato plant wilting in the heat. She watered it carefully, tied it to a stake, checked on it each morning. Miller noticed. You are good with plants, he said through the interpreter. Erica did not reply, but the next day she found a packet of seeds on her workbench. Heirloom tomatoes, a note in English she could not read. The interpreter told her what it said. These grow strong, even in bad soil. Erica held the packet, stared at it. That night she planted them. In the 6th week, letters began to arrive from Germany. Anna received one from her mother. The handwriting was shaky. My daughter Hamburg is gone. The house is rubble. Your father died in the bombing of 1943. I live with your aunt now in the countryside. We have little food, but we are alive. Do not worry for me. I am glad you are safe. I am glad you are away from this. Mother, Anna read it 3 times, then folded it and pressed it to her chest. Greta received a letter from her mother-in-law. The envelope was thin, the ink smudged. Inside was one sentence. Hans died in Berlin, April 1945, 3 weeks before the surrender. I am sorry. Greta did not move. She sat on her cot holding the letter. Anna came and sat beside her, put an arm around her shoulders. He is free now, Anna whispered. Greta shook her head. Why am I alive and he is dead? Why do I eat meat while he starved? Why? Her voice rose. Broke. Why did I survive? Anna held her while she sobbed. Across the room, Erica watched, her face pale. That night, Erica went to the mail officer. She handed him a letter. Her first. Please send this, she said in halting English. He took it, smiled. Of course, she walked back to the barracks, lay on her cot, stared at the ceiling, and for the first time since surrender, she prayed. Not for victory, for forgiveness. The season began to turn. Summer heat gave way to cooler nights. The camp announced a new program. English lessons, voluntary, twice a week. The teacher was a woman named Sarah Wright, a widow. Her husband had died in the Pacific. She wore black and spoke softly, but her eyes were kind. Anna attended every lesson. She learned how to say thank you, and I understand, and please help me. The words felt strange in her mouth, but good. Greta attended too, silent, focused. Learning gave her something to do besides grieve. Erica sat in the back, did not participate, but she listened. One day Sarah called on her. Erica, can you say this sentence I am learning? Erica stared at her desk. Sarah waited. Finally, Erica spoke. Why do you teach us? Sarah blinked. Because you want to learn. Erica shook her head. You lost your husband. We killed him. Why do you teach us? The room went silent. Sarah set down her chalk, walked to Erica's desk, sat on the edge. My husband believed in something, she said quietly. He believed that people could be better than their governments, that a person is not their country. He would want me to teach you. So I do, she reached out, touched Erica's hand. You are not my enemy. You are a student, and I am your teacher. Erica's throat closed. That night, she stayed after class, practiced the words until her accent softened. I am learning, I am learning, I am learning. By the third month, the camp felt different, less like a prison, more like a strange kind of home. The women sang while they worked. German folk songs. American soldiers hummed along to melodies they recognized. One afternoon, a guard brought a camera, asked if they wanted a photograph for their families. Anna, Greta, and Erica stood together, arms linked, smiling weakly. The photograph was developed and sent with their next letters. Anna's mother wrote back, "You look healthy. You look safe. Thank God." In the mess hall, Henderson began asking the women about German recipes. He tried to make sauerbraten one evening. It was not quite right, but the effort made them laugh. One woman showed him how to fix it. The next week, it was perfect. He served it with pride. The women clapped. Sergeant Miller found Erica in the garden one evening. She was kneeling beside her tomato plants. They had grown tall. Green fruit hung heavy on the vines. He crouched beside her. "They look good," he said. She nodded. "Thank you for the seeds." He was quiet for a moment. "My brother loved tomatoes," he said. "Used to eat them like apples, right off the vine." Erica turned to look at him. "My brother too," she said softly. "In Russia. He wrote me about stealing tomatoes from a field. It was the last letter I received." They sat in silence. Miller reached into his pocket, pulled out a Hershey's chocolate bar, held it out. "He would want me to share," he said. Erica took it, unwrapped it slowly, broke it in half, gave him one piece. They ate together as the sun set over the pines. Two enemies, two people who had lost brothers, just two people. And in that moment, the war felt very far away. October 1945. The air had changed, cooler now. The Mississippi heat had finally broken, and the evenings carried the smell of wood smoke and turning leaves. Anna stood outside the medical tent watching the sun drop behind the pine trees. 6 months. She had been in this camp for 6 months. It felt like a lifetime. She had learned 73 English words. She could take a pulse and record it in English. She could say good morning and how are you feeling, and this will help with the pain. Small things, but they mattered. Dr. Kowalski stepped out of the tent, wiped her hands on her apron. "You are getting better every day," she said in German. "Soon you will not need me to translate." Anna smiled. "I hope so." Dr. Kowalski looked at her carefully. "Have you thought about what you will do after?" The word hung in the air like smoke. "I do not know," Anna said quietly. "Germany is destroyed. My city is rubble. But it is still home." "Home," Dr. Kowalski repeated. "Yes, I understand that." She was quiet for a moment. "I left Germany in 1938, she continued. "I was a doctor in Berlin, Jewish. I saw what was coming. I took my daughter and we ran. My husband stayed behind. He said someone had to keep the clinic open. He said he would follow." Her voice caught. "He never did." Anna reached out, touched her arm. "I am sorry." Dr. Kowalski nodded. "I tell you this because home is complicated. Sometimes the place we love becomes the place that destroys us. And sometimes we must build a new home somewhere else." She looked at Anna. "You have skill. You have heart. America needs good nurses." "Think about it." Anna did not know what to say, so she simply nodded. That night, she lay awake thinking about Dr. Kowalski's words, about home, about futures, about lives that could be built from the wreckage of war. Across the room, Greta was crying again, softly, the way she did every night since the letter about Hans. Anna got up, sat on the edge of Greta's cot. "Talk to me," she whispered. Greta shook her head. "There is nothing to say. He is gone. I am here. That is all." "But it is not all," Anna said gently. "You are alive. You are healing. That matters." "Does it?" Greta's voice was bitter. "I eat 3 meals a day while children starve in Berlin. I sleep on a mattress while families freeze in the ruins. What right do I have to heal?" "The right of being human," Anna said. "Greta, you did not choose this war. You did not ask for Hans to die. You are not responsible for every suffering person in Germany." Greta turned her face to the wall. "Then why does it feel like I am?" Anna had no answer. She sat with her friend in silence, held her pound. It was all she could offer. The next morning brought news. The Red Cross was organizing a shipment of packages to be sent to Germany. Each woman could send one small box, 3 pounds maximum, non-perishable items only. The announcement caused a stir. Women gathered in excited clusters. What could they send? What would help most? Anna thought immediately of her mother. She went to the camp store, used her work tokens to buy soap, condensed milk, a small sewing kit, and a tin of coffee. She packed them carefully, wrapped each item in brown paper, wrote a note. Mother, these are small things, but I hope they help. I am well. I think of you always. I will come home when I can. Anna. Greta bought chocolate, bandages, aspirin, pencils for children. She packed them with shaking hands. For the orphans of Berlin, she wrote on the outside, from someone who understands. Erica stood in the store for a long time, staring at the shelves. Finally, she bought seeds, vegetable seeds, tomatoes, beans, carrots, potatoes. She packaged them with a note, for those who want to grow something new. When Miller saw her package at the mail station, he smiled. Good choice, he said. Erica met his eyes. You taught me that things can grow, even in bad soil. The words were in English, halting, but clear. Miller nodded. Yes, they can. That afternoon, Anna was called to the medical tent. A woman had fainted in the laundry. Heat exhaustion, dehydration. Anna helped Dr. Kowalski move her to a cot, checked her vital signs, gave her water. The woman was young, maybe 19. Her name was Liesel. She had been a secretary in the Luftwaffe. As she recovered, she began to talk. Rambling, feverish. They told us the Americans were monsters, she whispered. They said we would be raped and murdered. I believed them. I was so afraid. She gripped Anna's hand. But they gave me water. They gave me a bed. Why? Why are they kind? Because they are human, Anna said simply. Just like us. Liesel closed her eyes. Tears ran down her temples. I feel so stupid. So ashamed. We believed such terrible lies. Anna smoothed her hair back. We all did. That is what propaganda does. It makes us afraid of each other. But now we know the truth. Now we can be different. Can we? Liesel's voice was small. After everything we did, Anna thought about that. Thought about her brother dying in the snow. Thought about Hamburg burning. Thought about all the choices made by people who thought they were doing the right thing. I think we have to try, she said finally. That is all we can do. Try to be better than what we were taught. Liesel nodded weakly, fell asleep holding Anna's hand. Dr. Kowalski had been listening from across the tent. You will make a fine doctor someday, she said quietly. Anna looked at her in surprise. I am just a nurse. You have the mind for it. And the heart. When this is over, if you want, I can help you apply to medical school in America. Anna felt something shift inside her chest. You would do that? Dr. Kowalski smiled. I left Germany because people like me were not allowed to practice medicine anymore. Here anyone can, even a former enemy nurse from Hamburg. She turned back to her work. Think about it. The following week, a film crew arrived at the camp, Army Signal Corps. They were documenting POW treatment for official records. The women were nervous. Cameras made them feel exposed, watched. But the filming was simple. They were asked to go about their normal routines. Working in the garden, sewing in the workshop, eating in the mess hall. Henderson made a special stew that day. Extra thick, extra rich. The cameras captured the women eating, smiling, talking quietly. One officer asked Anna a question through the interpreter. How are you treated here? Anna looked directly at the camera crew. With dignity, she said in careful English, with respect, better than I expected, better than I deserve. The officer nodded, scribbled notes. That night, the women gathered to watch a different film. The Red Cross had sent reels of footage from Europe, reconstruction efforts, refugee camps, the reality of post-war Germany. The lights went down, the projector clicked to life, and the women saw Berlin in ruins, Hamburg flattened, Dresden burned, endless miles of rubble, children picking through debris, old women begging for bread, soldiers returning with missing limbs and empty eyes. The camp had gone silent. Then came footage from the liberated concentration camps, Bergen-Belsen, Dachau, Buchenwald, bodies stacked like firewood. Survivors with skins stretched over bones, eyes that had seen hell. The narrator spoke in English, but the images needed no translation. Erica stood up, walked quickly toward the exit. Anna followed her. Outside, Erica was bent over, hands on her knees, gasping. "That cannot be real," she choked out. "That cannot be what we did." Anna stood beside her, said nothing. Erica straightened. Her face was pale in the lamplight. "I wore the uniform," she whispered. "I saluted the flag. I believed in the cause. I thought we were making Germany great again." Her voice broke, walked into the darkness. Anna let her go. "Do not comfort me. I do not deserve comfort. I deserve to know the truth." She turned and walked into the darkness. Anna let her go. Some truths had to be faced alone. The next morning, Erica did not come to breakfast. Anna found her in the chapel, sitting in the front pew, staring at the simple wooden cross on the wall. "I prayed last night," Erica said without turning around. "I asked God if he could forgive us." Anna sat beside her. "What did he say?" Erica laughed bitterly. "Nothing. He said nothing, because how can you forgive that?" She gestured toward where the film had been shown. "How can anyone forgive that?" Anna was quiet for a long time. "I do not know," she said finally. "I do not know if forgiveness is even possible for something so terrible. But I know this. You did not build those camps. You did not order those deaths. You were lied to. We all were." Erica shook her head. "That is not enough. Being lied to is not enough of an excuse." No, Anna agreed. "It is not. But it is the truth. And now we have a choice. We can carry this guilt until it destroys us. Or we can try to do better. To be better. To build something good from the ashes." Erica looked at her. How do we do that? I do not know yet," Anna said honestly. "But maybe we start by being kind, by treating others the way these Americans have treated us, by remembering that we are all human." Erica closed her eyes. "I want to believe that is enough." "So do I," Anna whispered. They sat together in the quiet chapel, two women trying to find their way through the wreckage of everything they had believed. Outside, the sun rose higher. The camp came to life. Work details formed. The kitchen opened. Life continued. Because that was what life did. It continued, even when you did not think it could. By November, the women had settled into something like normalcy. They had routines, friendships, small pleasures. Greta had begun teaching sewing to other women. Her patience and skill made her a natural instructor. She found purpose in it, a way to feel useful again. One evening, a young woman named Petra came to her, crying. She had torn her only dress, the one her mother had made before the war. "I cannot fix it," Petra sobbed. "I am not good with a needle." Greta took the dress, examined the tear, sat down at her sewing station. "I will fix it," she said gently, "and then I will teach you how. So next time you can do it yourself." She worked carefully, her stitches invisible. When she handed the dress back, it looked whole again. Petra hugged her. Thank you so much." Greta felt something warm in her chest, something she had not felt since Hans died. Hope. Anna continued working in the medical tent. Her English improved daily. She could now have simple conversations with the American nurses. They told her about their lives, their families, their dreams. One nurse named Betty was engaged to a sailor in the Pacific. She showed Anna a photograph. "He is handsome," Anna said carefully. Betty grinned. "He is also kind and funny, and he writes me letters every week." She tucked the photo back in her pocket. "What about you? Do you have someone?" Anna shook her head. "I had someone once, before the war, but he died at Stalingrad." Betty's face softened. "I am sorry." Anna smiled sadly. "War takes many things from us, but we keep living. That is what we do." Betty nodded. "Yes, we keep living." That night, Anna wrote another letter to her mother. "Mother, I am learning so much here. The doctors are teaching me things I never knew. I think when I come home, I would like to study medicine, to help people heal. I think that is what we will need most. People who know how to heal. Your daughter, Anna." She sealed the envelope, kissed it as always. In the garden, Erica's tomato plants had grown tall. The fruit was turning red. Soon they would be ready to harvest. Miller came to inspect the garden. He walked the rows with her, pointing out what was thriving, what needed more water. "You have done good work here," he said. Erica looked at the plants. "They are just tomatoes." "No," Miller said. They are proof that good things can still grow. He paused. Even after terrible things have happened. Erica met his eyes. Do you really believe that I have to? Miller said quietly. Otherwise, what are we fighting for? That evening he brought her something. A small cloth bag. More seeds, he said. For when you go home, plant them there. Erica took the bag, felt the weight of the seeds inside. Thank you, she said. For everything, Miller nodded. Grow something good, Erica. That is all any of us can do. The weeks moved forward. Thanksgiving came. The Americans tried to explain the holiday, a day of gratitude, of giving thanks for blessings. Henderson prepared a feast. Turkey, mashed potatoes, gravy, cranberry sauce, pumpkin pie. The women gathered in the mess hall, uncertain. This was an American tradition, not theirs. But Henderson insisted. Everyone is welcome at this table, he said through the interpreter. Everyone. They ate together, Americans and Germans, guards and prisoners, sharing food, sharing stories. One soldier talked about his farm in Iowa, another about his mother's bakery in Brooklyn. Anna talked about Hamburg before the war, the harbor, the ships, the music halls. Greta talked about her wedding day, how it had rained but she had not cared. Erica talked about her garden, the one she would plant when she went home. For a few hours, the war did not exist. They were just people, grateful to be alive. After dinner, Henderson stood. I want to say something, he announced. The room quieted. When you first came here, I did not know what to think. You were the enemy. You wore the uniform of the people who killed my friends. He paused. But then I watched you. I watched you cry over a bowl of stew. I watched you work hard. I watched you learn. I watched you care for each other. His voice grew thick, and I realized you are not the enemy. You are just people. People who were caught in a terrible machine. People who deserve a chance to be better. He raised his coffee cup. So today I am thankful. Thankful that this war is over. Thankful that we can all sit at the same table. Thankful for the chance to build something better than what we destroyed. The women did not understand all his words, but they understood his tone. Anna stood, raised her cup. Thank you, she said in English, for your kindness, for your mercy, for treating us like human beings. Her voice shook. We will not forget this. Ever. Others stood, raised their cups. The Americans stood too. And in that moment, the mess hall felt like a church, sacred, holy, a place where enemies had become something else. Not quite friends, but not enemies anymore. Just people, trying to find their way home. December brought cold rain and the first whispers of change. The war in the Pacific had ended months ago. Japan had surrendered. The world was finally at peace. Now came the question no one wanted to ask. What happens next? One afternoon, the camp commander called a meeting. All prisoners were to attend. He stood before them, gray-haired, tired, kind. Ladies, he said through the interpreter, the war is over. Your country is defeated, but it is beginning to rebuild. In the coming months, you will be sent home. A murmur ran through the crowd. Home. The word carried so much weight. He continued, you will be processed, given travel papers, sent by ship back to Europe. From there, you will be released to German authorities and allowed to return to your families. He paused. I want you to know something. You came here as prisoners of war. You will leave as women who helped us remember what we were fighting for. Decency, humanity. The belief that people can be better than their governments. His voice grew stronger. Do not forget what you learned here. Teach it to your children. Teach it to your neighbors. Teach it to anyone who will listen. He looked at them. Peace is not made by treaties. It is made by people choosing kindness over cruelty, understanding over hatred, hope over despair. He saluted. Thank you for reminding us of that. The women sat in silence. Then slowly they began to applaud. Not loudly, not jubilantly, but with deep, quiet respect. That night, the barracks buzzed with conversation. Some women were excited. They would see their families again, reunite with loved ones. Others were terrified. They did not know what they would find, who would be left, what kind of Germany awaited them. Anna sat on her cot, thinking. Greta came and sat beside her. Are you afraid? Greta asked. Yes, Anna said honestly, but also hopeful. I have learned so much here. I want to use it. I want to help people. Greta nodded. I want to teach. Sewing, kindness, something useful. She smiled sadly. Hans would want that. He would want me to build something good. Across the room, Erica was packing her few belongings. She moved slowly, carefully. Anna went to her. How do you feel? Erica looked up. Lost, she admitted. I came here believing one thing. I leave believing something completely different. I do not know who I am anymore. Anna sat beside her. You are someone who learned, someone who grew, someone who will plant tomatoes and teach others to do the same. Erica's eyes filled. What if that is not enough? Then you keep trying, Anna said. That is all any of us can do. Keep trying to be better than we were yesterday. Erica nodded slowly. I will try. Good, Anna said. That is all anyone can ask. They sat together, two women on the edge of a new beginning. Outside, the December rain fell soft and steady, washing the world clean, preparing it for what came next. December 24th, 1945. Christmas Eve. The camp had transformed overnight. Someone had strung lights between the buildings. Paper snowflakes cut by careful hands hung in the windows. In the center of the compound stood a pine tree, tall, green, decorated with ornaments made from whatever could be found. Tin foil, colored paper, bits of ribbon. It looked like hope. Anna stood in the doorway of the barracks watching the trees sway in the cold wind. 8 months. She had been here 8 months. In 3 weeks, she would board a ship back to Germany, back to Hamburg, back to whatever remained of her old life. She did not know how to feel about that. Behind her, Greta was humming, a Christmas carol from childhood. Silent night. The melody drifted through the room like a prayer. Do you remember Christmas before the war? Greta asked softly. Anna turned, nodded. My mother would make stollen. The whole house smelled like almonds and cinnamon for days. Mine too, Greta said. And my father would read the Christmas story from his old Bible. The pages were so worn you could barely see the words. Her voice caught. I wonder if that Bible survived the bombing. Anna had no answer. So many things had been lost. Books, buildings, people, whole lifetimes erased in fire and rubble. But here, now, in this strange place, on this cold Mississippi night, there was still a Christmas tree, still lights, still the promise of something beyond the darkness. The chapel bell rang, clear and bright. It was time. The women gathered outside, 50 of them, wearing their cleanest clothes, hair brushed, faces scrubbed. They walked together toward the chapel. American soldiers joined them, guards who had watched over them, cooks who had fed them, nurses who had cared for them. The doors opened, warmth spilled out. Inside, candles flickered on the altar. The simple wooden cross seemed to glow in the soft light. Rows of benches filled quickly. Germans on one side, Americans on the other, an aisle between them like a river. The camp chaplain stood at the front, an older man with gentle eyes and silver hair. He spoke in English first. Then the interpreter translated. Tonight we gather not as enemies, he said, but as children of God, all of us broken, all of us seeking peace. He opened his Bible, and she brought forth her firstborn son and wrapped him in swaddling clothes and laid him in a manger because there was no room for them in the inn. The words echoed through the small chapel. Anna felt tears prick her eyes. How many Christmases had she heard this story? How many times had she sung the carols and lit the candles and believed in something bigger than herself, and then the war had come. And belief had become complicated. But tonight, here, the story felt new again. A child born in darkness. Hope arriving when all seemed lost. Maybe that was what they all were now. Children born into darkness, searching for light. The chaplain closed his Bible, nodded to someone in the back. Sergeant Miller stood, walked to the front. In his hands he carried a harmonica. He lifted it to his lips and began to play. The melody was unmistakable. Silent Night. He played it slowly, tenderly, each note hanging in the air like a question. Then Anna stood. She did not plan it, did not think about it. She simply stood and began to sing. In German. Stille Nacht, heilige Nacht. Alles schläft einsam wacht. Her voice was soft at first, uncertain. But then Greta stood, joined her, then Erica, then others. Nur das traute hochheilige Paar. Holder Knabe im lockigen Haar. The German words filled the chapel, familiar, comforting. a piece of home carried across an ocean. And then something remarkable happened. The Americans began to sing, in English, "Silent night, holy night, all is calm, all is bright," two languages, two melodies woven together, rising toward the rafters like incense. "Round you, virgin mother and child, holy infant, so tender and mild." Anna's voice broke. She was crying. They were all crying. German women who had lost everything, American soldiers who had fought to destroy them, all singing the same song, all seeking the same peace. "Sleep in heavenly peace, sleep in heavenly peace." The last note faded. No one moved. The silence was profound, sacred. Then the chaplain spoke, his voice thick with emotion. This he said simply, "This is what we fought for. This right here, the chance to sing together, to see each other as human, to build peace one voice at a time." He made the sign of the cross. "Go in peace and carry this moment with you, always." They filed out slowly, quietly, into the cold December night. Someone had built a bonfire in the compound. It crackled and sparked, cast dancing shadows on the buildings. Henderson appeared carrying trays, hot cocoa, cookies, simple things, but precious. The women and soldiers gathered around the fire, drinking, eating, talking. Anna found herself standing next to a young private. He could not have been more than 20. He offered her a cookie. "Thank you," she said in English. He smiled. "Merry Christmas." "Merry Christmas," she replied. They stood in comfortable silence, watching the flames. "My sister is your age," he said suddenly. "She is in nursing school in Philadelphia." Anna looked at him. "I want to study medicine," she said carefully. "When I go home, I want to help people." The private nodded. "That is good. The world needs doctors, especially now." He was quiet for a moment. "I am glad you were here," he said. "Glad we could do this, treat you right, after everything." Anna felt her throat tighten. "You gave me back my humanity," she whispered, "when I thought I had lost it forever." The private's eyes glistened. "I think maybe you gave us back ours too." Across the fire, Erica stood with Miller. They were not speaking, just standing together. Two people who had lost brothers, who had learned to see past uniforms and flags to the person underneath. Miller handed her a small package, wrapped in brown paper. "Open it later," he said. Erica took it, nodded. "Thank you. For the seeds, for the kindness, for everything." Miller shrugged, just following orders, but they both knew that was not true. Orders did not explain the extra care, the patient teaching, the quiet moments of shared humanity. Orders did not explain this. Erica reached into her pocket, pulled out something small. She had carved it from a piece of scrap wood in the workshop. A small bird, wings spread, flying. "For you," she said. "So you remember that broken things can fly again." Miller took it carefully, turned it over in his hands. "It is beautiful," he said softly. He looked at her. "I will keep it, always." They stood together, the fire warming their faces, the night cold around them. And for a moment the war truly felt over. Greta found Anna near midnight. The fire had burned low. Most people had drifted back to the barracks, but a few remained, reluctant to let the night end. "I cannot sleep," Greta said. Anna made room on the bench. "Neither can I." They sat watching the embers glow. "I have been thinking about Hans," Greta said quietly, "about what he would want me to do." Anna waited. "He would want me to live," Greta continued. "Not just survive, but truly live. To find joy again, to help others, to build something good from all this pain." She looked at Anna. "I think I want to open a school in Germany to teach women skills, sewing, cooking, reading, things that can help them rebuild their lives." Anna smiled. "That is a beautiful dream." "It is," Greta agreed, "and it terrifies me. But I think that is how I honor him, by doing something that scares me, something that matters." She took Anna's hand. "What about you? What will you do?" Anna thought about Dr. Kowalski, about the medical tent, about all the things she had learned. "I will study medicine," she said, "somehow, even if it takes years. I want to heal people. That is what the world needs now. Healing." Greta squeezed her hand. "We will do it then, both of us. We will build new lives from the ruins." "Yes," Anna said. We will. They sat together until the last ember died, then walked back to the barracks, ready to face whatever came next. The days after Christmas moved quickly, too quickly. There were final medical checkups, paperwork to process, travel documents to prepare. Anna worked her last shifts in the medical tent. Dr. Kowalski gave her a gift, a medical textbook. Well worn, notes in the margins. This was mine, she said, from medical school in Berlin. Before I had to leave, I want you to have it. Anna clutched the book to her chest. I cannot accept this. You must, Dr. Kowalski said firmly. I have taught you all I can in 8 months, but this book will teach you more. Study it, learn from it. And when you are ready, apply to university. I have written you a letter of recommendation. It is in the front cover. Anna opened the book. There tucked inside was an envelope, addressed to whom it may concern. She began to cry. Dr. Kowalski hugged her. You have a gift, Anna. Do not waste it. The world needs good doctors, and you will be a very good doctor. Thank you, Anna whispered, for everything, for seeing me as more than a prisoner. I never saw you as a prisoner, Dr. Kowalski said gently. I saw you as my student, and I am very proud of you. Greta finished her last sewing project, a quilt made from scraps of fabric donated by the American soldiers. Each square was different, a piece of someone's old shirt, a torn handkerchief, bits of canvas. She had stitched them together with care, creating something beautiful from broken pieces. She gave it to the camp chaplain. For the chapel, she said, so people remember that broken things can be made whole. The chaplain accepted it with tears in his eyes. It is perfect, he said, absolutely perfect. Erica harvested the last of her tomatoes. The plants had produced abundantly, more than she could possibly eat. She gave them away, to the kitchen, to the other women, and to the guards. Miller helped her pull up the plants when the harvest was done. You will plant again, he said. In Germany. Yes, Erica replied, I will. She touched the soil. Rich, dark, life waiting within it. I will plant a garden, she said, and I will teach children about growing things, about patience, about how something good can come from bad soil if you tend it with care. Miller smiled. That is the best use of a garden I have ever heard. That night, Erica opened the package he had given her at Christmas. Inside were more seeds, but also a photograph. Miller and his brother, both in uniform, both smiling, young and alive, and full of hope. On the back was written in careful handwriting, remember that every enemy has a face, a family, a story. Grow something good, Erica. That is how we honor the dead. She held the photograph for a long time, then carefully placed it in her Bible, where she would carry it home. January 15th, 1946, departure day. The trucks arrived at dawn, cold, gray. The Mississippi winter was mild compared to Germany, but still the women shivered as they gathered their few belongings. Anna packed her medical textbook, her letters from home, a bar of the flower-scented soap she had been given on her first day. She had never used it. It had become a talisman, a reminder. Greta packed her sewing kit, the photographs of Hans, a pressed flower from the Christmas tree. Erica packed her seeds, the photograph of Miller's brother, a small notebook filled with gardening notes. They assembled in the compound one last time, 50 women who had arrived as enemies, who were leaving as something else. The camp commander stood before them. His eyes were red, his voice steady. Ladies, he said, when you arrived here, you were prisoners of war. Today, you leave as witnesses, witnesses to what is possible when we choose humanity over hatred. He paused. You will go home to a difficult situation. Your country is destroyed. Food is scarce. Rebuilding will take decades. But you have something precious. You have seen that former enemies can treat each other with dignity. That peace is possible. That people are not their governments. His voice grew stronger. Carry that knowledge home. Share it. Teach it. Do not let the world forget that even in the darkest times, kindness survived. He saluted. It has been an honor to serve you. The women saluted back, tears streaming down their faces. Then one by one they boarded the trucks. Anna paused at the gate, turned back, looked at the camp one last time. the barracks where she had learned to sleep without fear, the medical tent where she had found her calling, the chapel where she had learned to hope again. Dr. Kowalski was standing nearby. Anna went to her, hugged her tightly. "Thank you," Anna whispered, "for saving my life." "You saved your own life," Dr. Kowalski replied. "I just gave you the tools." She held Anna at arm's length. "Come back someday. As a doctor, as an immigrant, as my friend." "I will try," Anna said. "I promise I will try." Greta said goodbye to the sewing instructor, to the women she had taught, to Sarah Wright, who had taught her English. "You are a good teacher," Sarah said. "Do not forget that." "I will not," Greta promised. Erica found Miller by the garden. The soil was turned, ready for spring planting. "Someone else will plant here now," Miller said. "But I will plant there," Erica replied. "And I will think of you every time a tomato grows." Miller smiled. "Good, that is good." Anna, he held out his hand. Erica took it. They shook, firmly. Two equals. "Goodbye, Sergeant Miller." "Goodbye, Erica. Grow something beautiful." "I will." The trucks rumbled to life, began to move. Anna pressed her face to the window. Watched the camp grow smaller. Watched the guards waving. Watched America fade into the distance. Beside her, Greta was crying silently. On her other side, Erica sat with her hands folded around the packet of seeds. "We will be all right," Anna said. "We will survive this too." Greta nodded. "We will more than survive," Erica said quietly. "We will build. We will grow. We will remember." "Yes," Anna agreed. "We will remember." The voyage home took 3 weeks, longer than the voyage to America had been. Rough seas, cold winds, uncertainty. But this time they were not afraid. They spent the days teaching each other. Anna taught basic first aid. Greta taught sewing. Erica taught them the names of vegetables in English, how to plant, how to tend, how to harvest. They talked about their plans, their hopes, their fears. One night, Anna read aloud from her medical textbook, the section on treating wounds, on helping flesh knit back together. "This is what we will do," she said. "We will help Germany knit back together, one person at a time, one kindness at a time." The other women listened, nodded, believed, because they had seen it happen, had lived it, had been healed by the very people they thought would destroy them. February 1946, Hamburg. The ship docked in a cold rain. Anna stood on deck looking at the ruins of her city. It was worse than she had imagined. Entire neighborhoods gone, replaced by rubble and makeshift shelters. The harbor where she had played as a child was a graveyard of burned ships, but there were people, thin, tired, but alive, working, clearing, rebuilding. She took a deep breath, picked up her bag, walked down the gangplank into the rain. Her mother was waiting, older, grayer, smaller than Anna remembered, but alive. They fell into each other's arms, sobbing. "You came back," her mother whispered. "You came back." "I promised I would," Anna said. They walked through the ruined streets together, past buildings that were now just walls, past children playing in bomb craters, past women hauling water from communal wells. "This is home," her mother said sadly. "This is what is left." Anna looked around at the devastation, the poverty, the exhaustion. Then she thought about the medical tent, about Dr. Kowalski, about everything she had learned. "We will rebuild it," she said firmly. "It will take time, but we will rebuild it." Her mother looked at her. "You sound different, stronger." "I am different," Anna said. "I learned that even enemies can show mercy, that kindness is stronger than hatred, that healing is possible." She held up the medical textbook. "And I am going to become a doctor. Somehow, I am going to help heal this city." Her mother smiled through her tears. "Then we have hope." "Yes," Anna said, "we have hope." Greta returned to Berlin. The apartment where she had lived with Hans was gone, replaced by a crater. But she found his mother, living in a refugee camp, sick, weak, but alive. Greta nursed her back to health, used the skills she had learned in the camp, patience, care, kindness. And when her mother-in-law was strong enough, Greta told her about the camp, about the Americans, about the kindness she had received. "They should have hated us," she said. "We killed their friends, their brothers, their sons, but they gave us food. They gave us dignity. They taught me that people are more than their governments. Her mother-in-law wept. Hans would be proud of you, she said. He would want you to live, to honor him by helping others. I will, Greta promised. I am going to open a school, to teach women skills, to help them rebuild their lives. She reached into her bag, pulled out the sewing kit the Americans had given her. Starting with this, Erica returned to her village. It had been bombed but not destroyed. Her family's house still stood, damaged but repairable. Her mother embraced her. Her father stood back, stern, angry. You surrendered, he said. You dishonored us. Erica met his eyes. No, father, I survived, and I learned. I learned that everything we were told was a lie, that the enemy was not who they said, that kindness exists even in the darkest places. She held up the packet of seeds. I am going to plant a garden, and I am going to teach about truth, about peace, about growing good things from bad soil. Her father stared at her. Then slowly his face crumpled. I was wrong, he whispered. We were all wrong. Erica hugged him. Then we will learn to be right, together. She planted the seeds that spring, in the ruins of the garden she had known as a child, and slowly, patiently, life began to grow. 10 years later, 1956, Anna stood in front of a small clinic in Hamburg. Her clinic. The sign above the door read, Dr. Anna Weber General Practice. It had taken 10 years. 10 years of studying, working, fighting for a place at university, scraping together money, living on nothing. But she had done it. She was a doctor. Inside, patients waited, old men with war wounds, young mothers with sick children, workers injured in the reconstruction. She treated them all, with skill, with care, with the kindness she had learned in a prisoner of war camp in Mississippi. On her desk sat a photograph. Anna, Greta, Erica, standing together in front of a Christmas tree, smiling weakly, eyes full of uncertain hope. Beside it sat a bar of soap, dried now, cracked, but still smelling faintly of flowers. She touched it gently, remembering. Her nurse appeared in the doorway. Dr. Weber, your next patient is here. Anna stood, picked up her stethoscope. Send them in. The work continued. The healing continued. Just as she had promised. Greta's school had grown. What started as 3 women learning to sew in a church basement had become a proper institution. 50 students. Classes in sewing, cooking, reading, basic accounting. Skills that helped women survive. Skills that helped them build futures. She stood in the classroom watching her students work, their hands moving with the same careful precision she had learned in the camp. On the wall hung a quilt, made from scraps, each square different, each square telling a story. Her students often asked about it, and Greta told them about the camp, about the Americans, about learning that former enemies could become teachers. So we can be enemies no more, she always finished. We can choose to be human instead. The students listened, learned, carried the lesson forward. Erica's garden had become famous in her region. Acres of vegetables, flowers, fruit trees. She employed 20 people, mostly women, mostly widows and orphans of the war. She taught them everything she knew, how to plant, how to tend, how to harvest, but also how to be patient, how to believe in growth, how to trust that good things could come from bad soil. In the center of the garden stood a small monument, a stone with names carved into it. Sergeant Frank Miller's brother, Erica's brother, and dozens of others, German and American, soldiers who had died in a war that should never have been fought. Beneath the names was an inscription. They died as enemies. We live as gardeners. May everything we grow be for peace. Students came from all over Germany to learn from her. She taught them all, freely, generously, and every year on Christmas Eve she played a recording of Silent Night, the German version and the English version, overlapping, harmonizing, remembering the night when 2 languages became one song, when enemies became human. 1956, Christmas. Anna received a letter from America. The postmark said, Philadelphia. She opened it carefully. Dear Anna, it read, I do not know if you remember me. I was Dr. Helen Kowalski. I supervised you in the medical tent at the POW camp in Mississippi. I am writing to tell you that there is a position available at a hospital here. They need doctors who speak German. Many refugees are arriving. They need care. I recommended you. If you are interested, please write back. You would be welcome here. As a colleague, as a friend. With deep respect, Helen. Anna read the letter 3 times. Then she sat down and began to write. Dear Dr. Kowalski, I remember you. Of course I remember you. You changed my life. I would be honored to join you. She paused, looked around her clinic, at the patients waiting, at the city she loved. But not yet, not now. There is still work to do here. People who need healing. A country that needs doctors. But someday I will come, and we will work together again. As colleagues, as friends, with gratitude and hope, Anna. She sealed the letter, kissed the envelope. Some journeys took time, but they were worth waiting for. That night, Anna, Greta, and Erica gathered, as they did every Christmas Eve. They ate together, simple food, soup, bread, remembering. We survived, Greta said softly, against all odds. We survived. More than survived, Erica added. We grew, we healed, we built. Anna raised her glass. To mercy, she said, to the enemies who taught us what humanity looks like, to the belief that people can be better than their governments, to hope. They clinked glasses. To hope, they echoed. And in that moment, they were back in the camp, hearing the harmonica, singing in 2 languages, learning that the war could end, not just on battlefields, but in hearts. One meal at a time, one seat at a time, one act of unexpected kindness at a time. The stew had been the beginning, but the story, the real story, was what they built after. Lives of purpose, of healing, of growth. Lives that proved the war had not won, that humanity had. And years later, when Anna finally did go to America, when she walked through the doors of that Philadelphia hospital, when she saw Dr. Kowalski waiting, they embraced. And Anna whispered the words she had carried for 20 years. Thank you for that first bowl of stew, for seeing me as human when I had forgotten how to be one. Dr. Kowalski smiled through tears. You were always human, Anna, always. We just gave you a place to remember. And in that embrace, in that moment, the circle completed. Enemy became colleague. Prisoner became doctor. Fear became friendship. And a bowl of stew, simple, warm, given without cruelty, became the foundation of a life built on mercy, the foundation of peace, the end, but also the beginning.